Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to talk about Predecessor. We're going to talk about August 20th. We're going to talk about 1.0 launch, and this very well could be the last Predecessor video I ever make, because I wasn't planning on making another one as it was. But this is big news, and I have big thoughts, and we're going to dive into it. I went back into my streams just to give the full context. I went all the way back in my streams. I had to go look at the news post on the Predecessor website to see when did I first start playing the game. And this was it. It looks very different, rather changed, but just to give you context, my first stream was 2 years ago on April 3rd, 2022, if you can see that above my webcam. It's the first time I ever played Predecessor. I say it's the first time. It's the first time I've ever posted or streamed content for the game. So you can see for the context of this video and for my perspective as a whole, I've been quite involved with Predecessor and quite involved in, this game as a whole, the entire development, from this stress test is what they called it, all the way through to early access, paid early access, through to open beta, and then much less now, but all the way going to version 1.0 at launch. So what is my thoughts? I mean, you can already tell by the title, this game's not even close to ready. It's not ready. This will fail. As much of what Predecessor has done has failed, and we're going to talk about why. Why are they going 1.0? Well, I'm going to go ahead and get the meat and potatoes out of the way. I think it's investor pressure. Now, here's the thing. We don't know what kind of relationship they have with their investors. We don't know. We don't know if it was like, hey, we give you money, we want returns. We don't know if it was like, hey, we give you money, we take equity, we hope for returns. We don't know. The reason why that matters is because if it's like an equity investment, then seeing the returns within like a small time frame or like within a certain amount of time is like not really as important. Like it's still important. They want to see returns. They want to see that the game is doing well, but it's not nearly as dire because they own portions of the company. Now it's still important, still very important. If it's like a, hey, we give you money, we want to see returns. They don't own any equity. It's very important because the money that Ometa Studios has is not theirs. Does that make sense? Like, and even in an equity investment kind of scenario like that is much more theirs. I don't really know. I've never worked on this side of gaming. It's much more theirs than it is in a non-equity investment. But it's not their money. Does that make sense? Like it belongs to someone else. And if that person or those people, I'm going to keep it simple, right? If those people come to you and they say, hey, we're not really seeing it, we're not really feeling it, we're going to give you this amount of time. Like we're changing up, basically. We're going to give you this amount of time. We need to start seeing some revenue coming in, or we're just going to go pull the rest of our money and walk. Like then you don't have a project, right? Then you instantly shut down. And so there's two things that I've learned. It's just being a MOBA player, a game consumer. You know what? I'm going to let this run in the background because this is just very old footage, different footage. And I know my webcam's up here, whatever. There's two things that I've learned. When a dev studio goes silent, and I mean like, Ometa's not entirely silent, but they've been pretty silent for some months. Like rather, like you can tell, right? It's very, very noticeable how silent they've been. The first thing is when a dev studio goes silent, something very bad is going on. It means that they often aren't wanting to speak on things or talk about things because they're having like deep internal conversations about what's going on, and it's like they don't want to like say the wrong thing or divulge too much information. So usually when a dev studio goes silent, something very bad is going on, or something very serious. But I won't even just say bad. Something very serious is going on. The second thing is when a game launches into 1.0 and it's like very clear. Like when a game launches and it's incredibly clear that the game is not ready for it, it's usually pressured, right? Like it's pressured by a way predetermined release date that they are forced to stick by. It's pressured by investors to say, hey, look, we need to see something. It's pressured by themselves to feel like they need to start seeing some forward progress. It's pressured, right? So the reality is that there's not a single, I say this, like it's fact. It's not fact, but I would be very surprised to think that there is a single human being alive on this planet that believes that Predecessor is ready for a 1.0 release. It just doesn't make any sense to me to believe that. Now let's take a look at some of this footage, because I meant to have it playing in the background. You can tell, because I want to be very clear. The reason why I'm gonna again, meat and potatoes. The reason why the game is not ready for a 1.0 release is because it hasn't changed that much. It hasn't actually been that developed. It's missing a lot of systems, and it's missing a lot of things. But let's take a look at what they have done, because this is the stress test before early access. The UI is actually different. The shop is different. You could have wards and hunt and crest, like all in your item bar. Like, to say that Predecessor has done nothing is a terrible misrepresentation of the truth. So they've done good work, and it's not really that Predecessor hasn't done good work. It's that they did good work and it was too slow. And that's always been my perspective. It's been my perspective for so long, is that Predecessor and Omega Studios can do good work. They just do it too slow. And when you realize that that's the fact, it's because player interest has like a time lease on it. Like, players are going to be interested in the project. They're going to be excited about the project for X amount of time. And that time is different for each individual person. But eventually they're going to move on. And we're seeing that start to come to fruition in general now, because the player counts are just dropping every single month. They're just like continuously dropping and dropping and dropping. And you have to ask yourself why. And the reality is, like, there's not enough to keep people playing. That's just what it's what it means. There's not enough to keep people interested. Dude, look at this. This feels like I'm clearly a MOBA player. I knew how to play even back then. And so unfortunately, people don't stick around. And so the game doesn't have enough content. The game doesn't have enough reasons to play. And, that is an issue. So let's go ahead and jump into what I wanted to show y'all on the Reddit. So we got a couple of things. Obviously you've probably seen this. We're going to talk about that. But I want to find the 1.0, if I can find it, the 1.0 thread right here, the community highlight. The game is going 1.0, forge your legacy. This is like going to be the start of their pushing for their branding. I'm sure this is going to be seen in a lot of their posts. And it's much more vibrant. You can tell that they're kind of changing their design for this. They're going with this like gold instead of an orange, and like maybe even a lighter blue. But I just think that the reality is that so many people think that this is just not the time, right? We're gonna take a look at some of the top comments, and wow, I actually didn't know this. This is my comment, the top comment with 60 upvotes. I said, this update better be massive. Excuse my formatting, I did this on my phone. I said, this update better be massive. And then I listed off a bunch of things that the game just doesn't have. And we're going to talk about this list very specifically. Amber cost for Scans Affinity, rework spectator mode, in-game profile stats, match history, 24/7 ranked mode with seasonal rewards, new hero on release, new original in-game item artwork, reworked custom games, custom settings, daily, weekly challenges, updated onboarding for new player tutorials, in-game ranked leaderboard with region filters, lane minion AI changes, custom jungle monster models, updated in-game UI, custom UI, updated ping system, map ping system. I said, so much of the game currently feels very far from 1.0 release, but here's to hoping. Now, if I'm being honest, I said here's to hoping just so I don't get downvoted into shit, because this subreddit hates me, and I'm trying to be optimistic and basically saying this game isn't even fucking close. And I'm sure there's things I'm missing on this list too, because I just made it really quickly. But so much of these things are actually very core. Some of them could come later for sure. Not this whole list doesn't need to happen right at 1.0 release, but you need to have some of the main ones. 24/7 ranked is an absolute must for full launch. Amber cost for content is an absolute must for full launch. In-game profile stats, match history, it's an absolute must for full launch. New in-game original artwork. If you launch a 1.0 game with placeholder artwork, holy shit, that's really bad. So I'm hoping that this is definitely something that's coming. In reworked customs, this could come in time for sure. Daily, weekly challenges, I think that this one's a bit of a 50-50. Like, it would be nice. Like, I really think it should be there for launch, but it could come a little bit later. This one, major one. Updated onboarding, new player tutorials. Dude, new players get in this game, they have no idea what to do, they get destroyed, they're thrown into all kinds of crazy matches. I could have put matchmaking on this, because honestly, matchmaking has never been good in Pred, but I digress. They get destroyed. They don't know what to do. They're not learning, and then they quit. In-game rank leaderboard, this could come in a little bit of time, but it's definitely nice. Lane minion AI changes, dude, it's just bad. Lane minions have been bad. They don't have good AI for 2 years. I don't think this is an absolute necessity on launch, but it makes the game not very good. Custom jungle monsters, again, not an absolute necessity, but definitely would be nice to have like some reptile looking things, like a camp of monkeys, you know what I mean, for the jungle to be engaging looking and exciting, as opposed to just having these like minions, like bigger robots in the jungle. Updated in-game UI, I won't say it's a must, but it would definitely make the game look and feel a lot better than it is now, because the in-game UI is really bad. Granted, it's not the same as this, and it's like slightly improved from this, but more or less over the last 2.5 years or whatever it's been, 2 years and some change, it hasn't changed much. It hasn't changed enough. We're going to get the map rescaling that, that hasn't ever happened. More or less the UI, you can look at it. It's more or less the same. We'll jump to some current footage later to take a look at that probably. An updated ping system. The ping system's atrocious. I think that this one should absolutely be in for full launch. So in short, the point is that the game is just quite simply not ready. There's way too many core things, big features, a big quality of life that needs to be had in order for the game to retain players. So again, my point, it definitely feels forced, definitely feels like pressure from investors, from themselves, from the community, from whoever, to launch this thing for whatever reason. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one. Founder, predecessor, about V 1.0 release, and I don't have the context. I'm not going to pretend to have the context. I'm not in the Discord. I don't know what this is in response to or where it goes after this, but I can speak to what I see. And that's what I'm going to do. RGSA says, I find it extremely fascinating, and maybe we're missing something, but a lot of people that complain have spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours playing Pred. Surely the game did something right to get you there. I really don't understand why you think the game is missing a bunch of stuff when it got you to commit hundreds of hours. Well, I'll show you my tweet on that, because that is a terrible, a really, really bad sentiment, in my opinion, a really, really bad take. So this is what I had to say. I said, okay, let's touch on this one real quick. RGSA, so it was the gameplay as a promise for the future that got us in, the potential of what it could be, the foundation that was laid, which was never really enough, but enough to invest in and give our time and our trust towards. You then took that trust and did very little with it. What's missing? A lot. I love Pred, but it's become abundantly clear that Ometa was the issue over a year ago. Best of luck on the launch, truly. This is a terribly disconnected take. And the reason why is, like, if you don't understand why we think the game is missing so much, then it means that you don't understand what's missing. And if you don't, as the CEO and co-founder of the studio, if you don't understand what's missing or why we think it's missing so much, then it's quite literally like self-reporting on the fact that you don't understand what makes a good game. And if you don't understand what makes a good game and what it's missing and why we think it's missing it, then you can't quite possibly deliver it. And this is something I've already known. It's something I've been saying. I've been saying they're too slow. I've been saying they need to work faster. I've been saying they need to get rid of wasteful developers. I've been saying that Robbie shouldn't be the CEO. He should be the absolute lead community team member, co-founder, team member, like community manager, whatever you want to call him, face of the game, putting on streams all the time. Somebody else should have been the CEO running the ship. They should have put money into positions that would help and elevate them, as opposed to feeling like they needed to do it all themselves. They needed to do a kind of workflow analysis and find out where the time wasters are, find out where trim the fat on the company, find out who's collecting a check and not doing the right work, find the managers that are not holding their teams accountable to deadlines and to high quality projects and finished products. And they needed to clean house, man. Like, it's cutthroat. It's cutthroat as shit, but that's the market you're in. You're in the free-to-play game market, specifically the MOBA free-to-play market, and people say, it's not fair to compare them to Smite. It's not fair to compare them to League. It absolutely is. That's their direct competitors. Oh, well, 10 years ago, League of Legends didn't do this. It's not 10 years ago anymore. It's today. You have entered the current 2024 free-to-play market, and actually it was 2022, 2023, whenever you technically, 2022 early access, but whatever, I digress. Open beta 2024 free-to-play market. As a MOBA, you must compete with the 2024 free-to-play market MOBAs. You have to do it. It's not my request. It's the request of the free-to-play market in general. And actually, I think to that point, I'm going to even find you something else. We'll go to my profile. There's a comment that I posted. So this says this. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but kids nowadays, I say kids because some shall act like them, are spoiled by AAA studios. And this was my comment. I said, when will you realize that our demands and what we expect aren't set by the individuals themselves, but by the market of free-to-play players globally? It's not that I alone am spoiled and want more, but without keeping up with the largest, most popular titles in the free-to-play space, the game will fail. And that's my sentiment, right? It's not that I just want more and I want free and I want this and I want that. It's like, yeah, I want those things, but I want those things because it's become a necessity by the market. Players respect and require those things, and that's what keeps people playing. And if you don't deliver it, then you don't have a player base. And if you don't have a player base, you don't have a product. So let's take a look at some of the top comments in this one, because I haven't actually taken a look at it. But this take is terrible. It's just quite literally self-reporting on why they don't know what they're doing. This is such a terrible take. Yeah, let's see what Muglock says. And the problem is that it's not weird and isolated comment that appears just this time. This is the mindset that they have showed. A lot of times we have examples like this all over Discord, sharing the same messages showing that we can see in the game. They don't want to take into account people's opinions. Listen, one thing I have said about Robbie, and again, this isn't just a hate on our GSA's post or video, but one thing I've said about him is that I actually don't think that he has the mentality of the CEO. I think that he tends to be a little snarkish and snobby. He tends to be a little condescending, and he doesn't really respond to the public well. I think I've called him out on saying some shit before in the past. And here's the thing: I talk a lot of shit, but I'm not the CEO of a company, right? It's a completely different vibe, and it's a completely different thing. So I think had he not been working for the studio and had these kinds of takes, like, yeah, it's fine, it's whatever. Obviously, he's the co-founder and CEO. It comes off way more ridiculous, and he got a lot of heat in this one for this. So that's kind of a bad take. If someone has spent hundreds of thousands of hours playing, they most likely more than anyone know what the game is missing. To dismiss their concern due to have played a long time is scary. Yeah, I mean, for example, I have 2,400. Let's take a look at it. I have 2,400 plus games played, and I'm fed up. I'm done. I'm probably never going back to the game. 2,401 games played. You know, however many hours that is. I've played 2,401 games on this one account, because I technically have two accounts, but the other one I never played on. So let's just say 2,400 games played. And dude, I've been saying it for 2 years. What the game needs, why it's lacking, where it's lacking, how the dev speed's too slow, how you get the point. It's quite very literal. This is not a thoughtful take, and it really worries me because their board is apparently unaware of the foundational nature of their current market, which is Pred is currently filling a gap in the market that is only temporary. We're between Smite 1 and Smite 2, the only third-person MOBA. That's why Pred is surviving for now. That doesn't mean Pred isn't bare bones. It just means that it's something fresh over Smite 1, which isn't saying much. Pred is a lot of fun to play because the engine action is so good, but it's not going to keep it relevant without the other parts being developed, and the lack of those other parts is very, very noticeable. Apparently, the meta board cannot comprehend that we can play an imperfect game for thousands of hours, recognize what it lacks, and lament its eventual demise. So I kind of agree mostly with this take, but I don't necessarily agree with all of it. Like, I don't think it's only filling the gap of this Smite 1 to Smite 2 gap that's going on. I think that the gameplay is genuinely good. I think that if someone was to literally pick up Pred gameplay and drop it into a studio that knew how to flush out an entire product, this game would thrive. Is that ever going to happen? No, that doesn't happen. People don't just buy up games. But I think my point is that it's not like we're just filling this market. The gap that is being filled is the gameplay. It is the gameplay. The problem is gameplay is never a completed product. I've always said, or have for a long time said, Predecessor is a bad game. Predecessor has incredible gameplay. There's two different things there. The game is the entire product. What does it offer for your time? Does it have a ranked mode? Does it have good cosmetics? Is the monetization good? Is the marketing good? Is you get my point, right? Like, Pred as a game is the entire product that's bundled together. Predecessor gameplay is just one aspect of it. It's one variable. I'll read one more right now. We play the game for, we play for the superb gameplay. We play in spite of those features missing. The game doesn't even have fucking DM system to message players to make friends or duo after you find good player in ranked. Matchmaking is absolutely, I didn't put that on my list. There's no social features. Matchmaking is absolutely horrendous in ranked. I don't know if it's because we have a small player base or something with their algorithm, but it's awful. It's much better in casual queue, so there's definitely something going on there. The skins are poor quality and too expensive. There's no or very little capacity for player reports. I'm at 1600 elo in casual queue. I play the same 100 players. There are 20 or so of the same people who are serial offenders going AFK or being toxic. I report them all the time and nothing happens. This is a really good one. We play in spite of the features missing because we had faith in the project. That's exactly why we played. We had faith in the project, whether you were an ex-Paragon player or not. It didn't matter. We had faith in the project. You're right. Like, these are core systems. 2024, a multiplayer competitive game with no social features is insane. Matchmaking has always been terrible. That's true. Absolutely true. The skins are too poor, or poor quality and too expensive. I wouldn't even say they're necessarily poor quality. They're way too expensive. And the bundles, I made full video about the bundles. How, like, you're not even doing like common market practices right. Like, you're bundling things at a full premium and then removing choice for us to buy the pieces individually. Like, you're actually giving up sales by not even doing bundles correctly. There's very little capacity for reports. So this one is just about like how people are just like chronic AFKers, or serial offenders to going AFK. This is actually what got me removed from the creator Discord and the creator program. Well, in part, because I would get so frustrated by people constantly AFKing, and there was a certain person that did it. I don't know if they're around anymore, but I would check their match history often, and every time I would run into them, I would put it in the Discord and tag a dev. I'd put it in the Discord and tag a dev. I was like, hey, what are you doing about this? This person is still ruining my game. It's been months, literal months, and they would never do anything about it. And then I remember whenever I had spoke to Carrie, actually, you know what? I'll pull up the message. I won't show y'all because I feel like that's a little disrespectful to show DMs, but I'll read you the message when I got removed from the Discord. I want to see if I can. Yeah, let me see. Let me see if I can find when I got removed from that. I know I got removed from the main Discord for talking shit, but it is, you know, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey there, Krashy. While we appreciate your initial enthusiasm for Predecessor and your clear passion to see the game succeed, we can no longer support or partner with you. Your previous insistence of our use of private content creator server to demand explanations from devs and permabans from our CEO, as well as your ongoing negativity towards our brand, process, and futures, such as this tweet here, whatever, means it's no longer in our interest to stay in ties with you. Our game continues to develop and grow, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, I did for months. I expected explanations as to why there was nothing being done about people ruining the experience for others. And here we are, months and months later, years later, and this is a common issue for people. Why are people going AFK in droves? You want to know why? It's because they bred a culture of it. You either shut that shit down hard or you allow it to happen. And guess what? They chose their path. Friends, in short, I've already been talking for 22 minutes. This game is pretty fucked. I'm just going to give it to you honestly. It kind of still has a chance in the sense that maybe they have money and maybe this launch will be fucking massive, dude. But here's the thing. Let's say this version 1.0 patch comes and they drop the notes for it and everything that's coming with it, and it's actually colossally huge, right? Colossal. It's massive. Why didn't they communicate any of it was coming? Do you know what I mean? Like, so my concern, people, like, I'm already saying it better be massive, but I already know that it can't possibly be. It'll probably come with like two really big things. It's going to come with a hero, which is always exciting. And it's going to come with, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's going to come with like at least two really big things, because there's no way you can launch without doing that. Although technically they did nothing for the open beta launch too, which was fucking insane. But more or less, this just isn't going anywhere. And it's really frustrating to see because I don't know why. So I don't know. I think that I can predict the future like I always do, and I'll tell you that this is what happens when games launch. Essentially, it's going to launch. The player numbers are going to go up because it's free to play. It's full launch. It's being marketed. People are being sponsored potentially. All of that, this, that, and the other. And then over time, it's going to dwindle. So usually, it takes about 3 months to see where things are starting to settle at. So we may actually be coming up on what looks like the best time period in terms of numbers for Pred, but it'll be futile unless this patch is actually massive. So currently, my perspective is that this game is nowhere close to ready. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why they've been radio silent. It concerns me. I don't have a lot of faith. And we'll just have to wait and see what comes of it, because it's coming. It's coming on the 20th, and the game's not ready. So drop your likes on the video. I meant to say drop your comments down below. Drop your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Like I said, this will likely be my last ever Predecessor video. You know, nothing's for certain. Who knows? If they crush it at some point, then I'll come back and give them all the props in the world, because, you know, maybe they deserve it. But we'll see. We'll see, folks. Thank you so much for watching. As always, be sure to be kind of one. Tell someone you love them. And I'll see you on the next video.